Well, I am Noach Głuchowicz. This is Talk About Bupkes, and talking with the Bupkes today is Wael Eskandar. He is, well, we were just discussing how we should introduce him. A man of many talents, living in Berlin, journalist, writer, performer, speaker of painful truths, maybe is the best way to say that. Wael, thank you so much for joining us at Talk About the Bupkes today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Um, there's so much to get into. Your Instagram videos that you post and your other content just it really, I think, hits a chord with a lot of people. You're one of many people who are out there, on the front lines of protest, looking at the hypocrisies, the double standards of so-called democracy, of so-called fundamental rights. And you really do speak and pick apart those things, I think, so well, which is, I think, what we want to get into today. Um, one place maybe we should start is, I think, about a year ago, and you can tell us better. About a year ago, you wrote this Dear Jana, or Liebe Jana letter, post, sort of open letter on your Substack that got a lot of attention. It got a good amount of response. I think a lot of people still don't know about it. Maybe we just start there. Could you walk us through, like, who is Jana, first of all? I guess we all know a Jana. Anyone who lives in Germany or used to live in Germany, I guess, knows a Jana. Um, why don't you tell us about that? What motivated you, and we can go from there.
Yeah, yeah, her real name is not Yana, who I wrote it for, but
But nicht Jana. Got it.
yeah, but Yana is one of the shortest German names that represent a generic, um, female who who really just wants to be seen as progressive, but doesn't want to take any single step that would cost her anything. This actually happened because I knew someone, and we were out like with her friends in the water, and everyone was swimming. And of course, when something comes up, we talk about what's happening really in Berlin, which is really, for I don't know who doesn't know yet, but massive repression and suspension of civil liberties and all of that. And then as the conversation comes up, she tells me, well, do you feel uncomfortable that I'm not speaking out? And then I tell her one, two, three, four, and then she says, I don't have the energy to talk about this, even though she started it.
Oh, I don't have the energy. Oh, that is like, I hate that response.
Yeah, I mean, you always get one of these responses. It's complicated, or I don't have the energy for that, but so but anyway, so I wrote this, then we had an exchange after that, and I actually wrote that letter very, very honestly, and I was just telling her, like, you can't live your life ignoring the big elephant in the room, and then just you want to hang out with this Arab guy, and then, hey, I'm nice to people. And so the whole letter came, kind of a heartfelt letter, but after a while I decided I'm not going to send people personal stuff that they discard. If I have a message that is very generic, I'm just going to send it out to the world, to all the Yanas of this world, and it's just a letter that people can use. And this is kind of my messaging. If I'm messaging someone, if someone's really doesn't know what to do about a position against genocide, you know, then I'm kind of like, well, my personal communication with you is just wasted energy. I'll just send it to everyone out there that's like you. So that's how it came about, actually. So
So
that's the story of Yana.
this letter originally was going to be like literally a letter to this specific person.
Oh, I sent it as well
Oh, you
to
did
them.
say. So
Yes.
is it this exact, like, what we can read on your Substack? Is that literally the letter you sent to her?
Yes.
Okay.
But with a different name.
With it, not Yana.
Yeah, with her real name. Yeah. But I didn't want to it wasn't about her. It
Right.
was about something generic, and that's why I changed. It's not a problem what the name is, but it's kind of a word for word what and I did actually receive a response. The response was, yeah, I'm sorry we grew apart. I'm like, no, we were always apart. If this is if this is the position that you know that energy of abolish Frontex and the energy of protect migrants, but then you don't even want to have a conversation about Gaza, right? And you know, you could have an opinion as well. Like you could even have an opinion and tell me all of the those things, and we can debunk them. But not having the energy is just like, and then I don't know what they're doing right now with their lives. There's so many of them, right?
There's so, I mean, I would say we know that there were so many of these Yanas out there because I think the world would look a very different place if there weren't, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Not, I don't
and
want to
I
give
find
or too much confidence in the democratic system and officials and people in power actually responding to what their publics say, but there would probably be some change if there were.
But you see, I have this issue with particularly, I don't have a problem, as big a problem, with the people at the far end whose opinions, the real threat to what we have or what we could have are the people in the middle
Ah,
who,
the interests.
who actually are supposed to be on your side, like on the side of justice or democracy or values, and then they choose not to be, or to be silent, or to have this inward opinion that never manifests itself, and somehow feel congratulate themselves that they have this opinion, but then allow for the rise of the far right or the authoritarian liberal center or whatever. And that's what I have an issue with, and I find it's a pet peeve. Like, of course, I should be more upset with those who are like, oh, well, all of the migrants out and so on. But it's those people who are like just occupying that middle space of saying, hey, I'm the progressive, I represent diversity, liberalism, and I'm against racism. And then they fail at the juncture in which they're supposed to operate. That's my pet peeve.
That's
So,
that's a decent and perfectly legitimate pet peeve to have. It's something that the bupkes confronts on a regular basis. I think it really is like our the bupkes' raison d'etre is these people enter, right? Like, because I don't know. I think it's okay to be angrier at these kinds of people than the far right. Like, because at least they'll tell you to your face, like they hate you, they would kill you if they could, they'd put you on the next train gladly. Like, at least then you know what you're dealing with, right? Like, okay, and then you can come up with strategies of resistance and figure out like how to counter that, right?
yes, and at least you know what they're thinking. What I'm left with, and particularly, I don't know, with the German public, is you end up not knowing what they're thinking. Like, what is it really? Like, is it that you're too afraid? Is it that you're afraid to be called anti-Semitic? Is it that you don't like us inwardly? What is it? They just don't even tell you that, so you don't really know what to confront, and you have to keep guessing their psychology. And I've had actually a lot of I've written other pieces and about the German society, and what I found was that there was a lot of interest from Germans about me writing, explaining to them what Germans are. They want to know. They themselves don't know why they're feeling that way or why they're reacting. And one really interesting professor in Germany, Daniel Marvecki, who wrote this thing about the Staatsräson and the history of German-Israeli relations. He told me, if you want to know about Germans, don't ask Germans. So I found that very, very valuable advice. You have to kind of figure it out on their behalf. I mean, not all of them, of course. I'm just saying those within the Yana spectrum. And then you
Yana,
tell them,
this Yana spectrum. We
yes,
should put that on a T-shirt or something.
the Yana spectrum. Avoid the Yana spectrum. Escape the Yana spectrum.
It's a big spectrum, though.
My God, yes, I think it's shrinking a little bit, but it's still pretty big. I mean, the Yana spectrum is what allows for the far right to rise and for like authoritarian liberalism at the very end. Let's just call it that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely authoritarian because it assumes that they are the one and only correct way of like expressing yourself politically in this world, right? Like there can be no room for any other legitimate democratic discourse or expression. So it's like this way or the highway, which of course is going to breed illegitimate reactions, violent extremist reactions, that which is why we have the far right.
Yes, exactly. But but you know what I found? What I find very very strange in this liberalism and this authoritarianism of it, and I would relate it to this idea of fighting anti-Semitism in Germany. That they have these anti-Semitism commissioners, around 16 of them, and none of them are Jewish. All white Germans. They are like, no, no, we'll take it from here. We'll tell you what, and we'll tell everyone what it is. Even Jewish people have been subjected to that, and I guess it's really absurd how serious they take themselves. Like we have a memory culture, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Me-
and that's the spectrum that allows it.
memory dementia, elective.
I mean, dementia even would have been better, right? Because it's memory distortion. It's like completely a very, very distorted uh, view of the past and yourself. But I have this theory that that you can actually change the past by what you do today. Like you
Whoa.
actually do
Background.
that. Depending on what you do now, you can actually change the past because it's a continued history. Then the whole arc of the story changes based on what you do today, and I think that's what they're doing, unfortunately.
Okay, this sounds like some kind of bad plot to a Marvel movie or something. Like, should like German memory culture become like the next Marvel comic?
Yeah.
And then,
I
oh, if so, is Germany memory? They're definitely the villain in this Marvel.
wow, yeah. I think I'm gonna have to start thinking about it in these terms, like you know, but it's gonna be a bit more sophisticated. Like, how do you get the villain? Oh, I mean, maybe it's like every villain. A really good villain story is a villain thinking of themselves as doing something good for humanity. I'm only destroying all of humanity because it's a kind of a Thanos situation, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like no one ever does anything, or I shouldn't say no one. Of course, there are some, but no one really ever does anything bad or participates in something bad, thinking they're doing something bad. Right? This is like, the, are we the baddies meme? Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
but I think people know that they're doing something bad, except that the only way they change what they're doing is bad is like we only do bad things to bad people. Like they acknowledge that killing is bad, but if you do it to bad people, it neutralizes it. And I think this is the importance of the use of lies in any democratic or authoritarian society, even authoritarians. By the way, people get the authoritarian countries get a bad rep, like they're like um, they think that authoritarian people don't even try and sell a lie that they're doing something good, which is not true. They're just really bad at selling it. That's the only difference is that they have very bad PR. But at the end of the day, you need a lie to convince people that people want to feel that they're good. So you tell them you're just doing your job. The ethics of doing your job, putting people on trains, you've done your job well. And that's how people live with themselves. So,
Very proud,
yeah.
like work ethic. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
do
just
your
doing my job, that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, so you brought it's interesting because you brought up like the authoritarian connection, like the sort of the similar lines of similar mechanisms to get people to follow along and go along with something, whether it's a democratic context or an authoritarian context. We don't get into it as much or as little as you like. Like, so you're from an authoritarian side. You're from Egypt, which I guess we can just define as authoritarian. I imagine
Yes.
is like of all the different of all the different Mad Libs we could use. Uh, so how does that experience, you understanding Egypt, you being from there, you knowing how the system works, where the red lines are, how lies get manufactured to maintain power structures. Does that inform you at all about your experience in Germany? Like, I mean, I think it's important to note that for as bad as Germany is, like, it's still levels of magnitude. It's not Egypt, right? I think it's important to make that nuance. But do you still see parallels, or like, how does what you're experiencing in Germany, the protests, the repressions, the lies from the police, these kinds of things, Is your experience from Egypt helping you, shaping how you think about that, how you approach that at all?
Sadly, sadly, yes. Um, I didn't think so. When I first landed in Berlin, I thought I would never understand this place because it had different rules. But I was caught up in a very, very funny incident in 2022 with the Berlin police. And then I found myself knowing exactly the way that they're going to do things. They surround you, they wait on orders from the telephone. Um, the cops have some limited freedom in what they do, but it's all about orders and so on. So, I mean, I kind of wrote a piece about that called Ice Cream with German Police, where they didn't know what to do with me. So I said, "Hey, well, can I have an ice cream while I'm being detained?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then a friend of mine who had an encounter with a cop, and she was like, "I'm German, I have rights." That all of this doesn't matter. And she said, "Okay, get me 2 scoops with you." And then the cop shouted from there, "No, only 1 scoop."
Pistachio. It has to be pistachio.
That would have been the next level. But he did limit her to 1 scoop. And so that was really funny. And then I wrote about this, and I have we were kettled and were racially profiled, and I had an image just from Egypt, my first ever protest in 2010, where there was an iconic image of protesters kettled by the police, and I kind of published that and compared. And I talked to the cop, and I said, you're acting like Egyptian police and so on, but more
Good
and
thing,
more.
good thing you didn't say you're acting like Nazis. That would like you would have been deported immediately. So very
Yeah, I think they take offense. The best way to prove that you're not a Nazi is to act like one. I don't I don't know. That's so weird. But yeah, I mean, right now, if you call them fascists or Nazi, they act like it. They beat you up. They don't care. So, but I was calm because I understood the whole experience. But jump forward to today, when they pressure uh, places like Heinrich Rule to stop Masha Gessen from speaking.
yeah.
This is a typical security move that I know from Egypt. This is what they do. They pressure venues. When they pressure venues to cancel Francesca Albanese's talk and E.L. Weizmann, an Israeli, by the way, um, then I understand this move exactly because that is how security forces operate. So you have multiple levels. Of course, I acknowledge it's not as bad like in Egypt now. You could as soon as they arrest you, you stay 5 months in jail without even being spoken to. Here, you have that freedom, but that comes from a tradition of people fighting back and believing they have rights, and you can't push it very, very quickly, but you can arrive to the same place because it's exactly the way they operate, orders on the phone and so on. Yeah.
So do you feel like you're more, going back to the Yana thing, like the Yana the Yanas inside the Yana spectrum, they haven't had to deal. They have no actual experience. They're not. It's like a disease, like a pandemic, right? You get exposed to the virus. Hopefully, you survive, and if you survive it, you're then immune or more immune to it. And like all the Yanas in the world aren't. Like they don't know what it means really to like lose your rights and lose your freedoms, but you do.
I do. I do. I just see it so clearly because I know what to look for. Like it's that kind of experience. And on the I look for they do it through several ways, right? Like authoritarianism 101 is looking at the media landscape, the judiciary, the police operations, how the politicians manipulate all of this. Like this is even in books, but knowing where to look for it and how it manifests itself. That's the key because you know the police use some legal pretense to repress, and people think because there's a legal pretense,
It
then
must
that
be.
means it's legal. But this is exactly what Egypt does. You know what I mean? Like people can see from a distance because the end result is there. But when you're like when you're like the whatever the frog in the pot or whatever, which I don't think is actually scientifically true, but I like that the idea of being
I
heated
have
up.
a frog in the kitchen. We can definitely try this experiment live if you want.
Oh no, 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 no! Let's not try it with frogs. Poor frogs to suffer for humanity. I mean,
I
humans
don't.
are suffering already because of that. I mean, I think we should change it to the humans in the pot.
I
Like,
think frog is probably smarter. The frog will definitely jump out.
yes,
Human, I think we're witnessing this right now. The human will not jump out, especially if given an incentive to stay in.
exactly, yes. But wait, if you stay in, you're gonna have nice privileges and better cars
Shiny
and
object. The shiny thing.
exactly. So yeah, people don't realize what they're in, and then there's a lot of work that you have to do to explain. I mean, this has been my. I mean, for those well versed in politics and experiencing authoritarian repression, none of what I say is actually very new. I just try to condense it and kind of describe it to people. This is where we're at. This is my experience with all of this authoritarianism, and here's what I got from it. Really,
And
like kind of.
the paradox is, and by the way, we shouldn't pick on just poor Egypt. I mean, this is really authoritarian playbook across the board. Let's not be so mean to Egypt. Uh,
No, I
but
have a principle. You can't be too mean to any of the countries that are authoritarian, right? Like they are, mean to everyone. But you're right. Like it's not just Egypt.
not, but but this is the paradox, right? Like, so the Yanas now in 2025, they don't have the individual, personal, lived experience of repression, but collectively, German history, both on the Nazi side of things and on the East German side of things, and of course in the denazified quote unquote side on the West German part, it should be in like the German DNA to understand this, and yet the paradox is they don't. Like the very thing that should make them understand makes them not understand.
Yes. Yeah, but is it paradoxical or have they not gotten out of it?
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, the myth of denazification and unification, for example, like maybe it's this the continuation of it all is to pretend that you learned something from it. I mean, they've definitely learned something, but is it the right something? So, East Germany, they say it's been reunified with West Germany, but everyone knows it's an annexation. There's no reunification. But there is one place where they've been um, reunified, which is the security services. Everyone from the Stasi, everyone from the West, and now you have a combined method. Lighter, of course. I'm not comparing it in any way to Gestapo or Stasi or so on, but you have some of the guiding principles that you see, like little traces. There's a little bit of a reunification there, but they're taught the wrong lesson. I mean, people think that Germans are taught guilt, but in fact they're taught shame. And in my very just like it's just my opinion that they're ashamed that they were not able to get away with it and they were caught and they were called out. This is what I really think is driving them. The primary actor in the memory culture is the German perpetrator, and feeling bad that the perpetrator had to do this and the perpetrator wasn't able to get away with it because it's the same kind of dehumanizing language that was used with Jews that is being used against Palestinians or pro-Palestinian demonstrators. I mean, to some degree, of course. But do you not realize that? Like, and you still think you're doing good. That's exactly, they thought they were doing good, and then they're like, oh shit, we're not. So in that sense, I feel, what's the real lesson that they got? Can't they see it?
Well, I have a formula here, and if I get just the right stamp, like a stamp that tells me the correct lesson was learned, then we know that the correct lesson was learned because I have a piece of paper that says the.
Yes. Well, I mean, then if it's there, then it must be true.
Are you disputing the piece of paper that I have with the stamp that says
I
I'm correct?
I cannot. If I do, I will be deported. I believe in everything that the stamp says. That's. I mean, I'm trying to be like, maybe I'll apply for German citizenship, but I find that the conditions are very difficult. Just for me as someone who thinks, like there are things that I have to think that are really, really, they don't make any sense. And this is what is required of German intellectuals, academia, is to think in a very, very certain way. Um, like to think that, white Germans can say what is anti-Semitic, white Germans can decide, um, how can stamp a piece of paper about memory culture, not someone affected by it. You'd have to really believe in things like the Staatsräson, which is that Germany exists for the existence of Israel, which is kind of like very paradoxical. And then, I find difficulties thinking about these things and adopting them. I will never be a true German, not just because of my skin color, because of I can't get myself to think that way.
Yeah, I do believe part of the Einbürgerungs process, the naturalization process, is a lobotomy. So and and your health
Yes.
insurance will cover that. So you can apply for it. Don't worry. Like you'll be fine on the other end.
Yeah, I think they have a very long German name for that. Einbürgerns, whatever, lobotomizations, things. They put them words together and
Like,
you
maybe it's
just
like
have to sign off.
a process or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So just to wrap up the Yana thing real quick, like like online you got response. Like what did like how did people talk to you? How'd that resonate with people? Both people who have to deal with the Yanas and are the Yanas.
Hmm. Well, I don't think Yana's had the energy to respond to me.
Very, very difficult to be a Yana.
It's very difficult. I think they just recoiled into their shell again when confronted with this. But I did get a lot of responses from friends of the Yana spectrum.
Yeah.
Everyone was telling me this is exactly what I want to send to my friend. This is exactly what I want to say. Um, it's been an overwhelming response in terms of people connecting with that feeling. And to be honest, I wrote it from the heart. This is how I felt. It wasn't to kind of uh, reflect something, and this is why people felt it. That this is the message they want to send. But so much so that one of my friends translated it into German. This is very, very important. And I have a kind of like an abridged audio version of it with music um, that maybe I'll also turn into German. But
You should turn to like a sick beat and like do it at about blank or something.
it does have that techno beat, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so definitely about blank is the right place for it. For the real Yanas to hear it all.
I mean, this is like Yana Central.
Exactly. The anti-Deutsch Jana. No, actually, no, to be honest, about Blank is a bit more anti-Deutsch than Jana. They're
Yeah.
like professedly uh pro-genocide. So
Hey, got to be pro something. So, you know, just close your
I
eyes.
I know you gotta stand for something.
Ah,
Well, at
but
least they're straight.
the one thing that you did point out in this letter you wrote, there are lots of maybe lots is giving too much credit, but there are not Yanas in the world. There are Yanas who are not Yanas in the world in Germany, maybe even slightly increasingly so.
Hmm.
A little bit. Like the needle has moved. Like what's your like you've now been you've seen this sort of arc since before October 7th, since October 7th. How have things for you, whether how you feel or literally how what you experience, how have things changed? How's the sort of the talking points changed, the reception changed? Obviously we know from the state perspective the repression has gotten that much
Yeah.
worse, but from people, um, do you get a sense of anything being different?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of things are different. I've tracked people from the days where we're just kind of like uh
Tracking
out
people,
there.
good authoritarian Egyptian you are, tracking people. I don't know. It's very,
Yes, of course. I've learned from the best.
yeah.
Although the Egyptians were trained by the Germans
Well,
as well.
this is what we just call a beautiful synergy complete circle.
Well, I'll get to that point, but then just one historian. I was talking to a renowned Egyptian historian. I was telling him, well, wait, Germany is becoming like Egypt in the police measures and so on. He told me, no, no, no. The Germans taught the Egyptians. They're just, connecting with their roots.
When the student becomes the teacher.
Yes, exactly. So, to the point of people, it started out really, really just internationalists. The Yanas were on the fence. Of course, there were some people. I mean, let me just say, whenever I say German society, people used to come out and say, not everyone. Of course, not everyone. There are a couple of people who are really, really strong, and I really appreciate, well, a couple in the general sense. But I really appreciate people who do stand up because they have a lot more obstacles to overcome. They have their education, where the word Palestine is not allowed. They have this stats raison. They have this repressed feelings that you're not allowed to speak about. The history, the guilt or the shame they instill into you. So when they come out, it's really great. But even though they're passionate and everything, they don't have that experience of politics, of seeing things for what they are. So they're in the right place, but they don't see how bad it is with the media, with the police. But I have to say that starting from May 1st of this year, I started to change my mind about like how the needle has, whatever, moved, shifted a little bit. Because on that day, on the May 1st demo, there were a lot of people in solidarity with Palestine from across the spectrum. And the year before, there was just a confined Palestinian bloc. And in a sense, all the polls are showing more sympathy. But forget the polls. Like, actually, now it's just you'd have to be crazy after you've seen all of this to support this madness. The problem with German society isn't that they've always supported this madness, is that they just don't move. So in terms of shifting, yeah, slight shift. There's been an increase of sympathy, but then again, I don't look at this indicator without thinking that a genocide has been successful. People. I mean, what do you want? One day everyone will have always been against it, that book, right? That phrase. People are just waiting for it to be successfully done and then say, hey, that was really bad. I spoke about the starvation. I put this all eyes on Rafah image on my profile. That's my track. But basically, there is such a thing as too late, especially in the case of mass killing, war crimes, annihilation of people. There is such a thing called too late. It's not salvageable just because you speak out now. I think now, honestly, I think now is too late. It
Yeah.
changes. It's too late for people in Gaza. Maybe there's a little bit of hope for the West Bank, but already it's too late. But also the indication is people are not moving because they've changed their opinion. People are moving because it's been done successfully. And
So,
that is the most depressing part.
so it's like a sinister win-win where like the horrible thing has happened and now you can come around and say, oh, that horrible thing was really horrible. Oops.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a good guy. I recognize it.
And then maybe we'll be better off next time. The next time this comes around, but probably not. We'll just repeat the same mistakes, frog in the boiling water.
Yeah. They just
Uh,
have to
you know,
wait
you,
it out.
what you said about um, being too late and like moving that needle. I guess that's that question. Like, what is it for? Right. So, I've been thinking recently, the books you just mentioned, One Day We'll All Have Been Against This. Right now, I think that's like the best case scenario. I'm not sure if we'll get there because the best case scenario is that one day there'll just be consensus, just like there is today, that the Holocaust was probably a bad thing. Like everyone, like we can all agree on that. the best case is that one day everyone will agree on that. But I don't know if we're actually going to get to a point where people agree on that. And so, actually, for as depressing as that title is, and what it says about us as a society, in certain ways, it's almost the best case. I don't know if you can feel free to disagree and say that's total bullshit, but
No, no, I sadly I really agree 100%. And it goes back to the point that I made earlier about the future can change the past. Like today, we reckon with all of this, but there can be a rewriting of history as we go forward, and then it will always be whatever one person. Netanyahu was the problem, not the entirety of uh, not the entirety, but like a majority of society and Western complicity and Western journalists and so on, and everyone turning a blind eye, no one doing their jobs properly. It still can be rewritten, and I think there will be a lot of money invested in order to rewrite it. So yeah, even if this is really depressing, if the best case scenario is that it will happen successfully and then everyone will be against it, then what are we looking for in the future? It's probably going to be written in history something. It's maybe in the history books they're going to have a like 1,000-page book with only one page uh with 3 words, it was complicated, or something like that.
yeah,
So who
it,
knows?
it was complicated. So this brings us to like another paradox of how we talk about this, how we oppose it, how we stand up to it. Because like it feels like there's no, and this was something that really struck me of yours that you put out the other day about how we're all just complicit, no matter what we do. Like there's no escape from the complicity. We are all in this system, and I don't know, like rationally that makes sense to me. I understand that. Emotionally, on like a human level, like I don't want to accept that, and I don't know what to do about that. Like how do you deal with that? You know, you're complicit. The bupkes is complicit. We're all complicit. Fuck.
Yes, but the complicity is a spectrum as well. Like, and it matters where you are in that spectrum because
And the yana
complicity.
inside the complicity spectrum.
No, I mean, yeah, complicity is yeah, yeah. There's a Yana spectrum and a bigger complicity spectrum, but I think it's the word about complicity. Maybe it's not the best word for the responsibility that we have. But like, for example, I'm paying TV taxes to dehumanize Palestinians and dehumanize myself. I'm like a result. I'm forced into complicity, right? The question isn't whether the system is complicit. The question is how do we step away from it? And I think that's where I'm like, no, no, it's not. Oh fuck, no. It's okay to understand where you are and take steps to remedy that because you cannot stop. I mean, unless you want to kind of go to jail, whatever, you cannot stop paying the taxes or whatever that thing in Germany is, coerced propaganda fee for the TV and radio. But you can have your voice and counter that as well, right? And that is the balance of it. What you do versus your complicity is, some kind of, I'm sure there's some kind of weird calculation for it. But if you're doing nothing and you're saying, oh, everyone's complicit, then that doesn't make sense to me either, right? What are you
Right.
doing
Like it's
to,
not an excuse to do nothing.
no, it's a motivation to balance it out. Like, I mean, it's a bit like, oh shit, I'm gonna hit a wall, so you press the brakes, like that's what you should do.
Tighten the seatbelt.
Yeah. So I didn't mean it in a way that is like everyone is complicit and therefore, I mean, I think that, snipers shooting kids in the head are culprits and
The
media covering up.
yana spectrum. The snipers.
Sorry, what was that?
Snipers are on the extreme end of the yana spectrum.
I mean, I don't know. It's way beyond Yana when it comes to snipers. It's just way, way, way. It's like, it's, I mean, baby killer spectrum is just you would have thought in the world that this would be a very tiny spectrum. I'm
Yeah.
just so shocked at how big it is.
Well, we're all yeah. A lot of people on the spectrum. That we can for sure say. Yeah. I mean, is this something that you yourself struggle with, in terms of, like we've all been to protests, and I think especially in the beginning, there was this feeling of like what good is this? Like no one's listening. It's happening anyway. Is this doing anything? And there's like a number of different ways to look at it. Like obviously, it'd be stupid to say, you have a protest and there's not some kind of direct, cause effect kind of thing. But that's not a reason not to do them. So I'm wondering how, like, you go about in the tiny ways that you are able to, as you say, like balance out the complicity, how you kind of approach that.
Yeah, there's an answer that is probably political and it just talks about how to keep going and so on. But personally, I'll give you my personal answer. I just think that at this point, and with the years of experience from the Egyptian Revolution, I do it for myself in order to maintain what I can of my own person, not being just like taken by the current into more and more complicity and more ambivalence and so on. I do it because if you don't stand up and use your voice, then you just risk becoming exactly what you hate. And I've hated these people so much that I'm like trying to avoid it by doing something. And it's for me, first of all. But the second thing is, uh, I'll tell you just how this idea came about in March 2011. The military just while removing Mubarak then and pretending to be with the revolution, they kidnapped some people, took them to their military prison, and then they tortured them. And then we had a press conference where very underprivileged families were saying to us, like the media, who are also like kind of underprivileged, help us get our voices across. And I knew back then that no matter what I wrote, what I said, it's not going to change the fact or end torture or so on. But the privilege of being able to say something where people don't have that voice. And that's what keeps me going because also this is the thing you see like Palestinian journalists like showing the misery to the world, but it's not going to change anything, but they do it anyway. There is the value of having that tool, camera, voice, language, anything you can in order to get that voice where other people are just hoping that they get that. Like, can you imagine someone who just, you know, wishes they had, 1,000 followers on Instagram or Twitter? They wish they could just have their opinion reach 900 people or 1,000 people. Okay, that happens to me every day. Choosing silence is kind of like giving up that little thing that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but I'm taking for granted what other people don't have. So that's why I keep going because I have the voice, I have the words, and even if it means nothing to change things, it doesn't change me. It keeps me in check.
Hmm.
It helps other people as well connect. And I've been really thinking about this concept of repression. I came across a story where when people are isolated, the trauma is so much more. But even in our collective trauma, that someone is there shouting out, let him go, let her go, even that, even though it doesn't let the police stop beating your, there is this kind of feeling that levels the trauma. And so we have to go through it. We have to put ourselves there for each other. That's that's the least we can do for those who are fighting. So that's how I keep going. Not on hope of change, but almost like in hope of not changing.
I guess that's the idea of solidarity, right? I mean, that's where solidarity is not some transactional thing in hopes of like if you do A or express A, then B will happen. It's expressing support for the sake of it.
I'm in it with you.
Yeah.
That's solidarity. That's the real solidarity, not I'm doing it for you. I'm in it with you.
All right.
That's how I feel about it.
Compassion, right? Literally to suffer with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is it.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned, the Palestinian journalists in Gaza, who are using what tools they have to get that out, and then they get exploded for it.
Yeah.
Exploded and delegitimized by being called terrorists. So,
Yes, it's you'd think that blowing someone up is the worst thing, and having compassion that they were blown up. It goes back to this idea that you have that that's the best case scenario. But you see someone, six journalists, the most recent, right? You have like 250 or more journalists, six journalists being blown up, and then all of German media saying one of them was accused of being a terrorist, legitimizing it. I mean, that goes back to this idea of a German intellectual. I mean, to work for any of these, I have to think, if there's an accusation against someone that is unverified and they just blow him up, then that is a good excuse. I mean, what is that? How do you think of that? Um,
well,
you
the
get dehumanized.
the the Israel state propaganda like was very smart in using the Excel spreadsheet because that really targets. I think that gets to a really deep place in the German like spreadsheets and like line items. I think putting the lies into a spreadsheet is like a very good way of getting the sort of the German officialdom, the Teutonic imaginary.
It's in a spreadsheet. It must be true.
It must
Someone,
be. I have the paper with the stamp.
yes, the Israeli stamped it, so
I mean,
that's fine.
there's nothing holier than this than like if there's more than something from the Beamter at like your local Bürgeramt, it's definitely this like the holiness of the stamp from the
Yes, of course.
convention
I mean,
there.
this is why I was wondering, like, maybe they didn't have the stamp that, the Excel sheet was really strong. That's why they said it was like most likely. But if that was stamp was there, they would have, just gone all the
Anyway,
way.
but our shtick here threw you off. Apologies. You were talking about sort of like the one journalist of six, and like
Yeah, they got into this. So you have this idea of what's worse than being blown up is also being dehumanized after you're dead, like, and legitimized. Like, this is the thing. I mean, there is one really good episode from Black Mirror that I highly recommend.
you
Uh,
mean real life? You mean what we're Black Mirror, the life that we're living right now?
no, the series,
Right, life. What we're
like, oh yeah, yes, I'd watched it a long time ago, thinking it was fiction. I haven't caught up that this was the reality. So yeah, that there is one of them called Men Under Fire. And I highly recommend that. And the gist of it is that the people in the military have this chip implanted to dehumanize their enemies, and that's it. And everything falls into place. And that chip is the media that we have, that is dehumanizing people and legitimizing killing humans and killing babies. I mean, look, every time the babies are an indication. I don't go around. I mean, I don't think women and children are. No, it's okay to kill men, but not women and children. But the indication of how flawed this rhetoric is comes from women and children. But men should not. I don't think I should die just because I'm male. But that seems to be the situation. But I don't think it's true. Um,
yeah, the women and
Innocent people shouldn't die.
it also belittles women by putting them on the same level as children. So yeah. It's like civilians, innocent people. I mean, children,
Yeah.
like men, women, whatever. That's
Yeah, are they saying that like women can't fight? Is that what they're trying to say?
it's a. I mean, you see this. This is repeated. This is a repeated trope in all media everywhere, as if like again to go back to sort of like people thinking they're doing a good thing. Like look at the women and children, women and children, women and children. What are we on the Titanic? Women and children first. I mean, women are adults, and they're not children. So I just feel like there needs to be more categorization here.
This it's actually, what actually moved me around this. There was once an event organized by on Mother's Day, and also by a group called the Grieving Doves. They have the names of all the a lot of the people who were killed in Gaza on like wings and like a giant bird and so on. And and anyway, in one of these events, they printed the all of the names, like 900 and something pages of names of people and their ages. And then I went to the last page and I found the name of someone who was 108.
Whoa.
To be honest, I mean, why kill that person? That's what I'm thinking. Why kill someone? Like there were like three people over 100, I think, but 108, 101, like why kill those people? I just I don't know. That kind of moved me a little bit because outside of the rhetoric of women and children and so on, I could these people just you know it's not about the loss of life. It can happen anytime. It's just someone deciding that for you. Yeah, 108. How many more years was there? But why not let someone live their life? Why decide that for them? That kind of just moved me a little bit. I don't really know why, but I thought I'd just share that.
Well, I mean, things move people and affect people like in the most random ways. It doesn't. So, and to go back to, the different levels of both complicity and the different levels of action and of like resistance, right? So, to one thing that I find problematic. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things are problematic with the stereotypical Yana who's like just can't be bothered, doesn't have the energy. The way I think about it is like if this whoever, Palestinian journalist who knows he's gonna die, right? If you're in Gaza, like the chances of you getting out of there, and yet you still do that work. Like the least anyone else outside of that situation can do is like wake up in the morning, read the news, say something about it. It's that's why like, oh, I can't be bothered or it's just too much or it's complicated. Like I just have no patience for that. Cause you can do, there's something.
But the biggest trick is teaching you that being apolitical is apolitical.
Yeah. And neutral is neutral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what doesn't exist. I mean, what was it like? 2 months ago, uh, there's this article that says like, "Can journalists be objective?" I was like, my comment on that was like, really, 2025, and we're still having that debate about objectivity, neutrality, and whatever. Like, when does the pretense end about these things, the neutrality and so on? I mean, also, the funny thing though, also about the Yana spectrum is most people don't believe the news, the German news that they read. They already know it's bullshit. And so we're not even talking about a spectrum of Yanas who believe that bullshit and are like kind of like, oh yeah, maybe they are going after Hamas. No, no, it's not that. It's people who know and still don't do a thing. I mean, do something. Like say something.
Yeah. It's so is there then like do you have a problem with I guess the question is like how do we live our lives after Gaza, right? Regardless of who you are. Jewish, Palestinian, Israeli, totally not involved in any of these groups, whatever. If you're just a human being functioning on this planet, certainly in the West, right, where there's the levels of complicity are like off the charts. Like, how do we, like, how do you see us like living? Like, we still have to live. Like, it does nobody any good if we sit at home and just suffer all the time, right? That's not helping anybody. Like, so like that balance, like to still have a good time, live your life. Uh, but recognizing this like awful shadow that's everywhere all the time in the background. Because I assume when you get off kvetching with me, you'll do stuff in your day, like in your normal day. I think. Stop me if I'm wrong. So like,
No, no,
how do you
you're
approach that?
right. I've been thinking about this recently. Of course, like, what is there to return to? But also, now that you're saying it, and I'm just thinking about it, like, what is after Gaza? Like, how do we live during Gaza? Like,
Also, good point. The after might be the during all the time. Yeah.
exactly. We're all during. Everything is changing. And there's one thing the Egyptian Revolution taught me is that you keep going with a different worldview and you keep doing things. I think that I mean I'm gonna probably go bouldering or do some kind of activity that is kind of mindless. It's very meditative and so on. We have to keep going. It's true, but I'm just thinking like our world changes and changes us, and most of the time the battle is how does that change affect us? And that goes back to this idea of why we keep going. Because if you let it happen and you're not in control of how it changes you, then you're lost. So you have to be very controlled about how it changes you. I think burnout is really I mean is really dangerous. Not because I mean I think for this we do the most we can, and if burnout how it happens. But I think we're in it for the long haul to be able to survive, and I wrote something before it was about the Egyptian revolution is like survival is also a form of resistance. And I don't mean just like to switch off and and forget about everything, but also we have the privilege of a voice, we have the privilege of living. We want that for others. It doesn't help anyone if you're not using that privilege and just call for it for others. Like we can't all do that. We have to spend a little bit of our lives sustaining ourselves and living what we believe in, the right to live, the right to enjoy our lives, the right to have, for equality, the right, all of these rights have to be lived practice. And we could get really in moments really thrown back and ask ourselves, are we doing everything we can? But if we burn out, we do less. And it's our duty to maintain ourselves to do more. And the best way is to find people like, another Yana once told me, "Hey, let's go to a lake," and I was like, "Okay, no, let's meet at the protest." I was like, "No, no, I want to go to a lake, and maybe we can talk about that." And probably she wanted to explain to me her its complicated point of view. I was like, "If I want to go to a lake, I'm gonna go to someone who knows what's going on, has decided about this, so I don't have to deal with it." And we don't even have to talk about Gaza or Palestine and so on. We could just enjoy each other's company. And then we find people of that company, then it's just so much easier to live where you don't have to have a battle all the time. So also the spaces have to not always be politicized, but should be safe enough to not be a fight all the time. So I mean, that's my take, but what do I know?
You're just living it every day, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope this other Yano is not going to take you to Plötzensee. You know, that's if they want to confront their, that they get the best of both worlds. You can get like the lake, your summer lake time, and then like think about all the people that were executed during the Nazi times and dumped in that lake. So
Oh man.
get the
I
best of.
mean, the irony of it, like, but this reminds me of something else. Is, uh, the other day, people went outside the broadcasters to protest killing Anas al-Sharif and labeling him a terrorist. And ended up in Friedrichstrasse, where the people were pushed onto trains. Now, the ironic thing about this is at that station, there is a monument commemorating the people that were pushed onto the trains. The irony is lost on Germany.
Because this is the video like that was like very widely seen on social media of Berlin cops pushing people onto trains, right? The protesters.
Yes, that was Friedrichstrasse, which has that train monument dedicated to that. That's the, you know.
That's just them living their truth. They're just like you talked about how we have to live the rights that we want. So this is just them living out that world.
Well, they do say Berlin is a very nostalgic city, so like I guess that fits, huh?
It's very nostalgic. I'm not sure. This is why nostalgia is a dangerous thing, I think.
Mm,
Deal with it too much. Well, Ed, I think this has been I think we delivered on our promise to have a very depressing conversation. Um, which is always obviously the goal of the bupkes is just to leave people feeling, well, hopefully feeling a bit, like At least they're not alone in their destitution.
Yeah. But you said hopefully, unhopefully as well.
Unhope. Sorry, I get myself sometimes. Unhopefully,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
but
it's been a great conversation to talk about things here and there. So thanks for that. Uplifting but depressing conversation.
and if people want more of this depression, where do you exist? Where should people? Where do you want people to interact with you? Except for real life, hopefully, if you're in Berlin or in wherever Weil is. What's where do you exist?
Mostly on Instagram these days. I have a Substack, but mostly if you want for the absurd quick things and the fast updates is on Instagram, and I usually put some updates there.
All right. Well, we will certainly tag and link and post and whatever that's called, slap back, overwrite, repost, all those re story, up
Re
story,
real,
unreal,
unreal.
unhinged. All right.
Go- yeah,
Uh, Eskandar, thank you so much. I mean, doing fantastic work, obviously, for whatever it means. But it's all better than as you say, staying silent. I guess the moral of the story before we close: don't be a Yana, right? You know, even if you are a Yana, which is okay, don't be a Yana. But
excellent moral to the to the entire episode. Don't be
yeah,
a Yana. Yeah.
and this Noach Głuchowicz is going to try not to be a Yana, and we'll catch you next time whenever we have our next talk about bupkes. Thanks, Wael.